Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Valdheims, and today we're going to talk about mastering client communication, which you'll see that good communication as a lawyer isn't just about what you say, but also how and when you say it. So I'm the founder of Counsel for Creators, which is a law firm I started about a decade ago. And the reason why I'm talking about this and why this is so important is because communication has really been a fundamental part of our practice. And we work with creative business owners, so we help people start creative businesses and scale them, build them. So these are all creative people in arts, media, technology, all kinds of different areas who want to know how to use the law to do their work better. And one of the key things about this, one of our philosophies, is about making the law accessible. So we want to make sure that our communication is really on point, because for a lot of people we work with, this is new material. This is stuff that's intimidating and difficult for them to understand or even engage with. So our goal as a firm, and my goal personally, is to make sure that we're always communicating well with our clients. So the question you might have coming into this is, why should we master client communication? I mean, there's obvious answers that we want to make sure we communicate well because we want to convey information and make sure that our clients understand what we're saying and doing for them. But there's other levels beyond that. There's other things beyond that that I want to talk about. So the first thing is, good communication is a way to create happy clients. So our clients tell us that we're doing this right. So, and you'll see kind of how we do the feedback and get this. But what we have here is a net promoter score. Our firm has one of 83, which is pretty high. Most law firms, I think, are around 20 or something. So we attribute a lot of this to our communication and the way that we make our clients feel. And I'll explain how we know this and how we got this information. But what we really care about is the qualitative judgments, the qualitative feedback we get from our clients, which I'll go into during this presentation. And the other thing that good communication has done for us is between 30 and 40% of our clients come from referrals from other clients, which means we get people that like what we do, and then they tell their friends, and then those people tend to be good fits for our firm. Those are people we don't have to market to or sell to. They just come and they already know what we're about. So that helps us a lot. There's no need to market or sell to those people who come in. And ultimately for us, what this does is it creates a fulfilling practice. I became a lawyer because I wanted to serve creative people. I'm a creative myself, and I wanted to make sure that what I'm doing is actually serving my clients. And communication has helped me get there. Making sure that I communicate well with my clients has made it so that I feel fulfilled. I feel like I'm doing what I came to do as a lawyer. So one thing I've learned about client communication, and some of you might already know this, is it has nothing to do with the quality of legal work. Clients often cannot judge the quality of legal work. So they look to how you make them feel. And that comes from communicating well. So we communicate well with them, so that is what gets them to be excited about working with us. And these are quotes from internal surveys that we give our clients after every phone call. And what you'll see here is a theme that we are always going for. People will say they're really great, kind, and helpful, attentive lawyers. I always feel supported and heard. The attorneys really listen and then share their knowledge and offer their legal expertise. So this is a theme. This is what we're always going for as a firm. The thing about feeling supported and heard. And I'll explain how we do that, how we get there, and why that's so important. So the agenda today, we have 25 minutes plus time for questions. So we'll go through this relatively quickly, but I wanted to introduce all these concepts, which I think are parts of the way that we communicate at our firm and the way that any lawyer can transform the way that they communicate with their clients. So the first thing is serve and don't please your clients. Number 2 is set boundaries and expectations. Number 3 is to see and hear your clients. Number 4 is to automate but humanize. And number 5 is to collect feedback religiously. So the first one we'll go into is about serving the client, which is different from pleasing the client. So we don't try to please our clients. What we try to do is we try to serve them. So serving the client means dedicating ourselves to a positive outcome for the clients, even if the road is rough. And pleasing means telling the clients what they want to hear. And there's a difference. So serving is about creating a joint vision for what the future is, for what the outcome that we're trying to create with our clients, and making sure that we're always talking about that and articulating that to them. So when we serve our clients, we're telegraphing that we're dedicated to that greater outcome, even when difficulties arise. even when there's hard conversations to be had, our clients know that we're with them, we're together, and we're trying to create an outcome for them. And what that does is it makes it easier to have hard conversations. So a big part of communication, any kind of communication, but especially client communication, is delivering bad news or having hard communications. And if your clients know that you're committed to an outcome for them, whether it's building a brand, setting up a business, winning a case, whatever it is, as long as you can kind of make sure that they know that you're with them on that, these hard conversations are easier because they take place in that greater context. And that instills confidence in your clients because they know that you have a plan. They know that there are momentary setbacks, but that's also part of the plan. They know they can trust you because you've articulated to them that there is a goal. There is something that we're trying to create together. And clients want us as lawyers to take the lead and show them that we know how to get to wherever it is they're trying to get to. So everything else I'll share here revolves around serving the clients. So if you keep serving the clients at the center of all your communication, then everything else falls into place. And you have to actually care about producing that positive outcome and articulate it to your clients. Make sure they hear it. And there's no amount of communication hacks or advice that will save you if you don't actually care about producing that outcome. And I assume everyone in this room does care about that, but that is so central, and a lot of people kind of forget that. So what we're always doing is creating that shared vision. So I think the kind of first application of that is making sure that we're talking with our clients, making sure we're telling them that we understand what it is that they're trying to do, and always reminding them of that. So even when difficult things come up, and I'll explain how we do this in practice, even when difficult things come up, clients know that we're dedicated to the outcome. So if I have a trademark client that wants to build a recognized brand, I'm always reminding them that everything we're doing, everything we're talking about, everything that's happening is on the path to getting to there. And I want to get there too. I want to get there with my client. So kind of building that trust, building that rapport, making sure they understand what it is we're trying to do together. So part of the second thing we always get into is setting boundaries and expectations. And good communication requires that. Any kind of communication requires boundaries and expectations. Client communication is no different. So we want to set boundaries and expectations early so that we can head off a lot of communication mess-ups and build a better client experience. So when our clients know when they can expect things and what's happening next, then they feel confident in the process. And one thing that I've noticed in my practice is that clients are always going to come to us with certain expectations of how we're going to work with them, of how things are going to happen, of what it's like working with a lawyer. For many of our clients, this is their first time working with a lawyer, and they don't know what that process is like. So what we found is that we'll always have conflicts if we don't set the boundaries. If we have mismatched boundaries and expectations, that's what leads to conflict and disappointment for our clients. So they're not going to articulate what their expectations are. They're just going to have them internally and get upset that we as lawyers didn't meet those expectations. So it's really important to do this up front, do this early. And so you can set your boundaries and expectations by doing something like setting your communication preferences up front. So for us, what that means is we tell our clients, these are the hours that we work. This is how you can reach us the best way. This is how long it takes for us to respond to an email, so that they're not left wondering or come with their own expectations. We let them know. We want to make sure that they know, here's how we're going to communicate with you. And another part of setting boundaries and expectations is letting clients know what's going to happen next and when. So you need to let them know that there's a plan. You need to tell them, for instance, if we're working on a matter together, we might say, we've just completed the first phase, and in 2 weeks, you'll hear from us again, and we'll start the second phase. Things like that can prevent a lot of frustration, because a lot of times clients don't know. We might have been through this process many times, but this could be the first time for our client. So it's really important to be sensitive to the fact that you have sort of this information asymmetry, that your clients don't know what the process is, but you do. So you want to over-communicate. So you want to tell your clients really early, here's how long things take, here's when you'll hear from me, here's how everything works. And you want to be proactive in setting expectations. The client should not have to ask you. So this is a big deal. We always want to tell our clients what is going to happen next, like I mentioned, but we always want to be aware of, are our clients having to ask us what's happening next? And early on in the practice, that would happen a lot. That would happen a lot more. Our clients wouldn't know what the next step is or what's happening next. So we've gotten better and better at setting those expectations really early so our clients never have to ask. Because as I said in the beginning part of this, is if you don't set the expectations, your clients will. And they'll be annoyed that you didn't meet the expectations. So it's actually better communication for you as the lawyer to take control and tell them, here's what's going to happen. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's what the boundaries are. Here's when you can call us. Because then they're not coming in with their own expectations and getting frustrated that you didn't meet them. So if you take control, you'll actually make your life easier and their lives easier. And then this is the big one. So this is kind of the third one and the middle thing. And I think if there's anything to take away from this session, this is what we're trying to do overall. And that is to make our clients feel seen and heard. Everybody wants to feel seen and heard, and clients are no different. And you're going to see that seeing and hearing the other person is the cornerstone of good communication. The best piece of feedback that we get from our clients is what I showed you at the beginning, which is when people say to us that I feel seen and heard. So it's not that they're great lawyers or they got the matter handled quickly. We love all that feedback, but what we really like is when our clients say, hey, they heard me, they saw me, they got what I was doing. So we want to make sure that we're always doing that. And as I said, you heard me is the gold standard in, I think, any communication, but especially in legal communication. And for us, that's what tells us that we're communicating well. When we have a client tell us that you heard me, you got what I'm doing, you understand me. Because what good communication also means, especially with clients, is addressing the client's emotional needs. And a lot of times clients come into legal situations or working with an attorney with emotional needs underneath the surface. For them, maybe they want to win a case or they want to set up a business, but really underneath they're wondering, am I making the right choice? Am I putting my family's future in jeopardy? Am I an imposter? These are the kind of things that our clients are wondering. They're never going to say that, at least most of the time. But what they're going to do is just have those underneath. But if you can connect, if you can talk to them about that, and if you can sort of be like, hey, I get it, like this is tough, you're starting your first business and maybe you feel like an imposter, that goes a long way to having people feel the rapport with you and that you as an attorney understand what they're going through. And it's not just about the legal work. Again, they can't judge the quality of the legal work, but what they can judge is how you made them feel. They can judge that you had a rapport with them, that you understood them, that you connected with them. And getting to good communication isn't just about presenting the reason and the logic. And for us as attorneys, of course, that's important. That's baseline. But really to get to the rapport that I'm talking about and the good communication that I'm talking about, it's about getting to that emotional level that's underneath. So for that reason, you have to make it explicit. You have to reflect back to the clients that you hear their concerns. So it's, if something's stressful or that it sucks to get bad news. These are all things that we've had to have conversations with our clients about. We tell them, yeah, we get it. Like if we have a piece of bad news that we have to give them about, let's say their trademark application isn't going the way they would hope. We say, yeah, this is not the news you'd want to hear. Like I get that feels bad. Even before we get into the technical stuff, even before we get into the legal work about what we're doing, we make sure that we have that sort of environment that we understand. And you can't fake it. So if you're oriented towards serving your clients, then this will come naturally. But you have to be explicit about it. I think that's the key thing is if you care about your clients, you need to tell them, you need to explain to them, that you know how they, you know how everything feels. And so, yeah, that's it. So then the other part of this is automation. So a lot of us here at Clio, we are automating our firms. But an important thing to do is to automate, but also humanize. Make sure that while we're building this firm that has automation, while we're scaling, we want to make sure the human touch stays as part of it. And so automation is great because it'll help you serve more people more consistently. But we also have to remember that we need to be human because our clients are coming to us because they want to connect with a human being. They want to talk with a lawyer. They don't just want to go on ChatGPT or look on the internet for answers. They want a human to reassure them and tell them that what they're doing is right, that there's someone who has a plan, that there's someone who can help them. So it's really important that we balance that automation that we do in our firms with being human. And that's, like I said, what our clients really care about is the human connection. And I was actually at a session earlier with Stanley Tate where he's even talking about how you can kind of automate a lot of that connection. I mean, in a different way, but it really is making sure that people feel seen and heard, and it's not just all automatic. So the way we do that, in a practical sense, is we automate the standard communications about things like timelines and deadlines, notices, onboarding. And this supports the goal of setting boundaries and expectations, because all that standard stuff of, here's the onboarding email, or here's what's happening next, or here's an email that you get when we're moving from phase A to phase B of a project, for instance, that's all automated. And so if you're interested in that, you can use like Zapier or any other kind of tools to automate these communications. You can have emails go out automatically. But what that's going to do is that's actually going to help to set the boundaries and set expectations, because you can put a lot of the ground rules of communication in those emails. But what we're doing is we're actually trying to create space as well. So by automating the standard things, we can create space for stuff that takes more, human contact, right? So we can pop out of the automation when there's emotional content. And what I mean by that is if we have somebody who's upset or needs reassurance, or there's a potential misunderstanding, or any kind of emotional content to what's going on, then typically we want to step outside of the automation. We want to get to the situation where we are talking with the person. We're not just automating our way through it. Automation is important, but we have to notice that there are going to be times when we need to step outside of the automation. And I think a lot of you will know it when you see it, but typically if there's if there's emotional content, that's what we want to not automate. And we don't want to communicate about emotional issues over email. So this is also a big piece. This might seem like a small point, but this is, and I'll tell a story at the end of this about how we use this to really help a client. But trying to resolve emotional issues over text-based media, so email or any other kind of text-based media, is difficult because text-based media has negativity bias, and you lose a lot of the nuance and rapport that you would have by talking with somebody, whether that's in person or on the phone. So if we ever see that there's some sort of emotional element to what's going on, again, it could be bad news, it could be there's a misunderstanding between ourselves and our clients, we immediately pick up the phone. We immediately want to get in there and connect on an emotional level. And like I said, I'll tell a story at the end of this about how we actually put all this together and we're able to do that. So another piece is to, and I think this is the final one, if we want to make sure that we collect feedback religiously. So when we talk about communication, we can think we're doing a good job, and we might be, but we want to know. We want to actually ask our clients what their experience was like. So we might think, okay, yeah, that was a good conversation or a terrible conversation, but unless we ask, we don't actually know. So we want to get regular feedback from our clients that tells us how we did. And like I said, we don't know unless we ask. So we need to ask our clients how they experienced the law firm. We need to ask our clients what it is that what their experience was like. And so we actually send out communication after every single phone call, every single interaction that we have with clients. We have an automation that runs when the phone call ends. It'll send them a survey, a Net Promoter Score survey. If those of you who know what that is, it's basically that survey that you see all the time, has a score from 1 to 10. What is the likelihood that you'd recommend this firm to a friend or family member? And so we get a pretty high score there, but we always ask that because we want to know, did we do a good job? And whatever the number might be, so again, I pointed out our number is pretty good, but what we care about is the qualitative feedback. What do people say on those surveys? We want to know exactly how they experienced the firm, because if it's bad feedback, if it's like, okay, yeah, they didn't listen, or I felt like, they weren't receptive, we want to know that and figure out what happened. If it's good, we want to know how to do more of that. And so these are, again, the things that I'm always going for and that the whole team is going for. So as a team, what we do is we go over this feedback monthly. So we'll actually make sure the whole team knows how our clients are experiencing the law firm. So we're always pointing out that the main thing we're trying to get to is, again, that quote, that idea that we're being helpful and we're listening. And so everybody from staff to attorneys to anybody who's interacting with clients, we want to make sure that they know and they read the feedback and they see the feedback from clients so they know what's working and what's not working. So that's a really important part of that process. So we want to make sure that our team knows exactly what it is that we want to see. So here's an example. So one of the ways that I think I could probably put all this together for you is by giving you an example of a time when I personally had to take a client from the moment of how do we go from I want a refund to I'm going to tell my friends about how great you all are. So this was a real life episode where I think if I hadn't handled it correctly or hadn't handled it the way that I'm talking about here, it would have gone sideways. It would have gone really badly. So we had a client who thought that we were working too slow. They were kind of, they were annoyed. They thought that, hey, this isn't fast enough. Don't you understand the urgency? Don't you, why aren't things happening on the time scale that they wanted? And so the client wanted a refund. I mean, they honestly just emailed us and they're like, I want a refund. I want, I don't think you're working fast enough. I don't think you're urgent. But it was an opportunity. So at first I was a little bit annoyed because I'm a human. So feeling like, having someone tell me that we're doing a bad job, and I honestly felt like they were being unreasonable. My first impulse, like I think a lot of people would have, is to write them an email and tell them, okay, take a hike. Like if you don't like it, leave. But I was like, communication is important. We want to make sure that we're doing this right. So the thing I remembered, again, this was an opportunity. This is someone who is having a bad experience with our firm, but I can actually change this. I can actually get in there and communicate well and change this to a person who likes us. And I think I even told my team when this happened, like we're in Slack and talking about, man, this person's being unreasonable. Should we give them the refund and just have them go? But I think I told them, I said, hold on a second. Let me make them a fan. Let me get in there, give them a call and make them a fan of our law firm. So what I did is I picked up the phone and we had set the boundaries and expectations. We had our automation set up. We had everything done, the way that I'm talking about. We told them, hey, here's how long things take. Here's how we work. Here's what our boundaries are. But I don't think they read it. They didn't look at it. So, again, even though we communicated that, maybe there's a way we could do that better, but they didn't read it. And, so I gently reminded them. But I got on the phone, and the first thing I did was, I apologized. So even though I felt they were being unreasonable, I said, hey, I don't like that you're having a bad experience. That really sucks. I don't want anybody who works with us to have a bad experience. So first of all, I'm really sorry. And I meant it, because regardless of what's going on, I don't want someone to have a bad experience with our firm. I want people to feel like we're supporting them. So I said, that really sucks. And then I got to the shared vision. So at the beginning, I talked about serving clients and, hey, here's what we're trying to create together. And I reminded this client, well, we're working with you to create a national brand. That's what this client wanted to do. They want to create a large brand. And so I said, this is what we're here to do. This is what we want to do for you. And we're committed to it. And we have a method to make it happen. So again, it might not be what you expect. It might not be the way that you would want to see it happen initially, but we're committed to that. And we have a way of doing that. And we asked them, do you want us to do that for you? And again, it might be that we're not as fast as you would expect, but we're really trying to get it right. And we explained, again, the way we do things is to get you to that outcome, to get you to that thing that we want to do together. So over the phone, that was an amazing phone call. It actually turned out really well. And I listened to the client's concerns, and the client many times said, okay, fine, you hear me, you get me, you hear what I'm saying. Yeah, I do. And then they were like, and I hear you. So it was kind of, this really nice experience. And by the end of the phone call, they became a fan. And so at the end of that phone call, just by talking, just by getting on the phone, instead of just reacting and being like, okay, this client's unreasonable and completely being nuts, I was able to get in there and talk to them about, their concerns. I'm really concerned. I need things to be done quickly, and I have a way that I expect things. We talked about all of that. And by the end of the phone call, she said to me, I'm going to tell all my friends about you. And so they became a fan. So to me, that's kind of how the whole thing comes together. So as we're talking about, it's not just what you say, but how your clients experience it. So it's not just about talking about the legal work or the legal practice of what you're doing, but really making sure that your clients experience things well. And this is something that can take a while. This is something that takes practice. I've been a lawyer for, I think, close to 12 years now, and I'm still learning constantly. And it's getting easier and easier, but it's just one of those things where it takes feedback. I think it takes dedication, it takes feedback. But if you start with the desire to serve, if you start with the desire to create positive outcomes for your clients, and a willingness to be curious and not react and not feel like, you're basically being curious. Like you want to set yourself up for success that way by constantly learning, how can I do this better? And, even if clients don't read emails we send them talking about what our boundaries and expectations are, we can always make those better. We can always learn, okay, maybe bold things or underline them or change the formatting or whatever it is to make the communication better for our clients, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. So that's what I have today. And if you have any questions, I'm here for them. Yeah. I think a microphone is coming. down. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Saja Raouf. I had a hard time picking from all the sessions that are being offered at this time, and I'm so glad I picked yours. Thank you for a great presentation. I'm an immigration practitioner, and during the previous administration, part of setting expectations was going through a doom and gloom scenario. So you could potentially be overqualified for this visa classification, but given the environment, it could be really derailed, and that's out of our hands. So given we're around election time, if things get tough in immigration law, what is your advice for two parts? First of all, managing expectations without feeling that the client came away from the conversation depressed.
Right.
And number two, making them understand that you're just the messenger. You're doing everything you can, but you can't. I mean, it said the engagement letters, of course, we can't guarantee the outcome. But still, it's very difficult and touchy and sensitive. So.
Yeah, it's tough. That's a good question. I mean, it sounds overall like how do you set expectations, especially when things feel really difficult. And we've had a lot of those situations. So like for trademark, there's like office actions or whatever that we have to respond to. And we'll tell our clients, like, we'll try to be as frank as possible. Of course, we want to build that rapport. We want to make sure they trust us, because I think no matter what, if there's not trust there, it's going to be really hard to deliver what might be bad news. But then also try to put it in context. So for instance, if there's a trademark issue for us, I can kind of speak from our experience. The biggest thing we'll have is like a trademark issue. Like there's a conflict between someone's brand and someone else's brand. And I'll sort of say, well, here's the upside. So even if things go completely horribly, we will know that now instead of in 5 years when you have to go into litigation with this person. So, I'll even say, yes, I get that this is bad news. And I've started so many conversations with, all right, so what I'm about to tell you isn't probably not what you want to hear. And I've seen it before, and I'll even tell them I've had a lot of other clients who have gone through this. So I think even telling them that you're not the first one, you're not the only one who's experienced this is also pretty helpful, I've found. But I think just making sure that, they have space to almost like react and be like, okay, yeah, that sucks. Like, and then kind of go into it, give them the space to, have feelings about it, quite frankly. Yeah.
Also, second, I'm glad I came to this presentation. You smashed a lot into half an hour, so thank you. Question about how you collect feedback from your clients, because you said you were very focused on getting it frequently and you're going through it monthly. So are you asking clients, like sending them a survey every month of their active representation, or only at the end? And then how are you going through that with your team?
Yeah, good question. So what we actually do is after every single phone call, we just decided phone calls would be the place that we would ask. So right after a phone call, they get a survey, and we only send it at max every 30 days. So it's not, so if someone talks to me like, 2 times this week, they're not going to get 2 surveys, they'll get 1. And then they'll, kind of clock starts, and 30 days later, they can get another one. But after every single phone call, it's all automated. So it's not like we have to do anything. It's just the phone hangs up and then the survey goes out. Hey, how was that? A lot of times they don't answer. We have some people who answer every single time, and we'll even see like a single client will be like, start with a 7 out of 10 and go to 10 out of 10 or whatever. So every single time we collect that information, it's all tabulated. We use a tool called Delighted, which is designed for that. And we'll tabulate that. And then with the team, what we'll do is we have a monthly meeting where we go over, okay, what happened in the last month? And one of the things we talk about is, okay, here's what our client said, or here's what our scores have been like. And, it's surprising. So I think sometimes people will feel like, okay, like that client interaction was terrible. I felt like I messed everything up. But actually they gave us a 10. They really liked it. It was bad news, but they liked the way you treated them. And similarly, we get stuff where it's like, okay, yeah, that was maybe not the best experience, and now we can learn from it. But every single time, we have a phone call, we try to send it out. Yeah, there's someone back there.
And this will be our last question as well.
Hi, thank you. I'm just following up on that last one. What are your thoughts about putting, like, in your signature block, a link where they could give their feedback?
That might be good too. Yeah, I mean, I don't really oppose that. I mean, I would actually probably say, try it. I mean, that's an interesting idea. Try it. And I think the more opportunities for clients to give feedback, the better. I mean, because there could be situations where Maybe an email set somebody off, and I want to know that. I want to know, like, if I send an email and like, he was too, I didn't like his tone or whatever, I want to know that. I want to know how we're communicating. So yeah, there's no reason not to do that. And I think everybody will find their own way to do it. But I think the main point I would always just come back to is make sure that we're collecting that feedback in some way. And it could even be a Google form. It doesn't have to be anything super sophisticated. It could just be a form our clients have access to. Cool. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.